Before I start the video, I've got some explaining to do. So first off, why I've been gone for a month and a half. I've been having some trouble with employment lately, so I haven't been able to, get money or really afford anything, so Adobe Premiere subscription got canceled. And it just so happens that, DaVinci Resolve is free. So I'm using DaVinci Resolve now. The second explanation is, where's the 100 sub special? Locked behind Adobe. Thanks Adobe for taking my entire wallet. So basically, it's probably not gonna come out. Mostly because I didn't think that the Ratatouille video was really all that high quality anyways, and also because I don't like repeating myself. So instead, I'm gonna sit here and ramble on about how Mojang lost their game development magic. I have a creaky chair. And if it wasn't abundantly clear, I have foregone the whole scripted structure, so this is completely from the heart, dumb, stupid rambling, so I hope you're ready to enjoy. I'm just gonna cut straight to the point while my, heater is going to be loud behind the microphone. I think Minecraft's not doing too hot right now. And it also seems like generally the community really agrees with me, because there's been a revolution over the mob vote. Yes, I'll be talking about that this video, but it's not the core reason why I think the game in general is not doing great. But rather, I think it's not doing great because in general, I think there's just a lot of questionable decision making that Mojang has made over the past 3 years, just in general with updates and how they've handled it, that just, it brings up some glaring issues. So while I may not have a script for this episode, I do have 3 bulletin points that I'm just going to go ahead and discuss from the heart, and I'm just going to start it off right away with... Yes, I know this is topical, and I am starting off with this immediately so I can get it out of the way. Mob votes were the first sign of things were about to go sideways. Before we talk about mob votes, I need to give you a little bit of a history lesson. Mob votes started back in 2017, and during 2017 they presented 4 mobs, being basically known as the Barnacle, the Phantom, the Great Hunger, and Wildfire. This was the first instance of saying, you only get 1 and the other 3 go to the trash chute. Which at the time, I'm pretty sure a lot of us thought was a pretty neat idea that we got to choose what was in the game. But then when we started to, sober up a little bit, we began to realize this was them cutting corners. Like, the Great Hunger is now basically worthless now because we have, frogs in the stone wheel, but Barnacle and Wildfire would have added so much more life to 2 areas that didn't have life at the time, which was the ocean and nether fortresses. And I wish that's where it ended, but it didn't, because now we have it up to the current year, but we're gonna go in order. Mob Vote 2020, which was completely rigged by a YouTuber I shall not name for the sake of not summoning their stands, because we got Glow Squid instead of Iceologer or Moobloom. While Moobloom was effectively worthless, Iceologer was a new daytime threat, which the game desperately needs more of, because right now sleeping avoids most threats in the game. Mob Vote 2021, Glare, Alley, Copper Golem, and I tell you what, Alley's been added, I've seen it maybe once, and I have no desire to have another one. The 2022 vote is when people started to get more annoyed with mob votes because we were going to get the Sniffer, Rascal, and Tough Golem. We could only pick one, but all 3 were pretty neat in concept and all should have just been added to the game, but we got the Sniffer, and the Sniffer was the better option. But you can't tell me that seeing a Rascal in the caves and Tough Golems holding your items wouldn't have been dope as hell. And now we're at the current year, 2023, and there's a whole revolution about it. And what's funnier is that some of the devs have actually responded on Twitter saying that if we get these mobs, it won't allow for other features in the game, which I'm gonna call bull. Because mod makers have been making large-scale mob updates for years to their mods. Like, I'm talking about that whole Alex's Zoom mod. What's that mod that adds, like, all the wild animals? Future me put it on screen, I don't have time to research, this is unscripted. And not only have mod makers been making more mobs, there's literally tutorials from a guy named Coppin Joe, shoutouts to you, my good friend, that basically tells you how to make a mob, and you can watch it in like 20 minutes and get it done in at least an hour. So I said it once, and I'll say it again. I call bull. And I would love to keep ranting on about mob votes, but I have 2 other points I've got to make, and I've got a video time that's already at 4 minutes, so I'm going to move on to the next subject without any proper segue. Let's go! I have one question for you. In a game called Minecraft, what do you think has had the most improvements in the game? Would you say mining or crafting? Trick question, bozo, it's none of the above. Hey, so weirdly as I was talking about how crafting got no improvements, Mojang announced auto crafters, which is an improvement, so crafting finally got an improvement, so good for that, but please, for the love of God, give mining love. Now, let me get something clear. I have absolutely no issue with updates adding new stuff to the game, but the problem is that a lot of things in the game that have been added have not been improved upon or touched in years, and some of them are starting to look really dated. For example, do you know what the classic dungeon looks like? It is a cube with mossy cobblestone and 1 spawner and 2 chests. And we've had a lot more dungeons added recently that are far more robust, like end cities, underwater temples, woodland mansions, However, the dungeon, pyramid, and stronghold have remained more or less untouched. The only thing that pyramid got recently was sussy sand for that whole, archaeology thing that was supposed to be out 4 updates ago. And in general, mining as a whole is just boring. It's honestly, in my opinion, the worst part of the game. This is mostly because the only method of mining is TNT or pickaxes. And really it's just pickaxes, because to get TNT you have to kill creepers or make a mob farm, which more often than not, I don't really want to make a mob farm. And a lot of new players probably don't recognize how mob spawning works, so they probably will just, kill creepers and realize that mining is just a better use of their time. And mining is a complete chore for a new world height of around 100-something odd blocks, because pickaxes break 1 block at a time. And I know this sounds like some sort of Minecraft veteran just griping over complete nonsense at this point, but I mean, Tinker's Construct added so much stuff that makes mining in general just interesting. Like, even if you have the old ores, you can make better tools that have unique functions that make them stand out for certain purposes. I mean, hell, they added hammers so you can mine a 1x3 at least, so tunnels in general and strip mining was, in theory, a lot faster. Because, you could see more, and thus diamonds didn't require more tunnels. And if you really want to get into it, Create adds drills, so that way you can actually break blocks using minecarts, another function completely neglected by updates. Like, tell me the last time minecarts got an update. Minecarts, which should be synonymous with the game's identity, but instead we have elytras and horses, which were fine additions, except elytra breaking transportation and making every other form of it completely obsolete. Because the moment you get an elytra, there is no reason for anything else. And that makes me sad, because the most cool thing that you could ever have inside of an old beta world was a large minecart system between cities. And while mining is bad, crafting probably gets an even worse deal, because every opportunity Mojang has to improve on the crafting system in general, they completely flounder it for something completely worthless. The 2 most recent examples that come to mind is netherite and runes. Netherite and runes aren't applied to the crafting table, but are instead applied to the armorsmithing table. Not the main problem though. The problem is that netherite provides a minor boost with fireproof tools, and runes are completely cosmetic. There's absolutely no benefit to them other than grabbing them, so they just take up inventory space until you make them. And while I do like cosmetic and, getting that sweet drip, I don't really care for that an opportunity to make tools and armor have a possibility of having more unique functions got completely pushed to the wayside to give your armor a purple or blue trim. Like, imagine if runes added spells to your tools and your armor and stuff like that. Like, if you had, like, a fireball spell in your tool, you could actually, every now and then, blow up a portion of wall that helps you mine faster. Or better yet, just a simple function of armor giving you extra health points, which is another thing Tinker's Construct did with Night Slime. And I know it sounds like it would overcomplicate the game, but you wouldn't find these runes by just naturally running into them. They're in dungeons and special locations, which you probably already have the tools to handle at this point. And this is just me trying to extend my hand out for them adding new stuff that improves to the current systems of the game, which they haven't done a lot of, and they need to do more of for the sake of the game's longevity. So Mojang, if you're watching this, please just improve on the original systems. That's all I could ever ask from an update. But even then, I know it's going to be a long time before I get that, because the next issue on the chopping block is... I have a very simple question for you in the audience. Would you prefer annual mega updates that ultimately don't keep you in the game for longer than a week, or would you rather take frequent updates of a smaller portion throughout the year so you have a reason to come back every month or so? I'm not saying every month, maybe like every quarter. Let's go ahead and be generous, every quarter. Because I personally think that the game would be a lot more lively and have a more active player base if they just stopped doing annual updates and just made them quarterly. And I'm not saying make mega updates quarterly, because that would be completely unrealistic. I mean, I'm currently working on a game right now in the background, and even I couldn't imagine doing a mega update quarterly. But maybe consider, I don't know, breaking up the mega updates into segments throughout the year. I mean, don't call it the same update name, just, give it micro updates that have all the features of a mega update, but given out and distributed over the year, which would be a lot better than waiting a whole year for a 4th part of an update that should have been out already. Like, for example, I think the Wild update would have been a proper update if they just broke it up into quarters and worked on one biome at a time. As a matter of fact, this would probably improve a lot of their issues right now of them not developing a whole lot of games and probably being burnt out with Minecraft, because from what I can tell, they all seem pretty tired during the Minecraft live events. Like here, let me use Caves and Cliffs as an example because it's already split up into part 1 and part 2, and it was negatively received for being promoted as a massive update. Let's imagine if we backpedaled on that and we just promoted it as small update chunks at a time. Update to quarter 1. Let's just go ahead and start with the world gen, because I think that should have been added first before anything else. Mostly because it added new cave gen that was really cool looking, and the mountains looked way better than they did before. Like, there's big expansive mountains now, and I love them to death. Then in the next update, just add, amethyst and copper. Add some new ores in there. Maybe add the deep slate section at this point, because then at that point you'd have like, oh yeah, now we have all this new ores and stuff to mine in the new caves we just got. And then for quarter 3, we can just add dripstone caves and lush caves with axolotl, glow squid, and goats. That way you have the nice microbiomes and new mobs for you to mess around with. And then for quarter 4, the deep dark as an entire quarter 4 update, which could have had far more time to get love because the update was focused on it. Because the deep dark we got in the wild update feels very pathetic into what was hyped up. The warden is a joke, and there's absolutely no reason to go down there now except for the rune and the record disc, but there's no loot worth going down to that dangerous area for. And boom! In 1 year, I have completely boiled down the update into manageable portions so they could focus on it. Because I don't think people realize this, if you make a mega update, you really can't focus on all the parts to give them enough attention for it to be right the first time. And I know it sounds like right now I really hate Minecraft, but I don't. I love Minecraft, I just don't love the decisions they've been making recently. Minecraft has so much potential that it's just not recognizing. Mod makers have recognized it already, but Mojang just haven't quite grasped it. I don't understand why. In fact, these are such large issues that I can't play the game vanilla anymore. I can only play modded. Like, that's why I'm playing modded footage in the background and not vanilla. Because while mod makers get the game design right, it feels like Mojang just lost their magic touch. Thank you all so much for watching, and also thank you for 100 subs. I appreciate you guys being so loyal during my downtime of not having many uploads, and I hope to get back into the swing of things very soon when my life sorts itself out, which is probably explaining why the video here is probably not the same quality as the Deep Rock one. If you like what you saw here today, maybe consider hitting that like button and hitting that subscribe button. You do you, I'm not your mom. This has been The Bottom Dweller. I'm banned in 86 countries.